Good morning, everyone. This is Britt Simon. So let's take some live questions. Um, do some questions and answers. If you have questions, please feel free to ask them. I don't have any particular topics that I wanted to cover, but I will just say for DV 2020 and DV 2021, there's been no update this week, no news about the appeal. So let's see if we can get some questions from you. About any topics you like. I see there's a few people on. Feel free to ask some questions. I've got a little bit of a sore throat, so excuse me sucking the throat lozenge. Yeah, just covered the 2021 appeal. There's been no news this week, so we just have to be patient. There's really just it's very frustrating, I know, but there's just no way to rush that. Okay, let's take some questions. I wrote I'm unemployed. Is that an issue? I always chuckle at this one. Everybody that emigrates to America leaves the job that they're working in right now. So the fact that you don't have a job is not really a big deal. I mean, if you've never had a job, that would be a problem. It would show that you struggle to even get a job. But assuming you've had a job before, the fact that you're unemployed right now is not really a big deal at all. What do I think of Tbilisi? It's okay. You need to be a bit more specific in your questions, really, to be honest with you. Joe, hello, silly Joe here. Can we have medicals ASAP after 2NL? Any problem with that since we haven't registered with the embassy? You don't have to register with the embassy, Joe. I think you've already asked this question. You don't have to register with the embassy in order to book and take your medicals, right? That's two different conversations, two different processes. One thing does not affect the other. I think I've already explained that to you, Joe. The only problem, again, which I think I've pointed out to you already, is when you book the medical early, just understand that the visa expiry date, the expiration of the visa will be based on the medical date plus 6 months. So if you're given, let's say you're given 2 months notice before your interview, but you choose to get your medical immediately, let's say a week after you get the 2NL, then effectively you're cutting down the expiration period of the visa by almost 2 months. Is that okay? Maybe it's okay for you, but that's the only concern. Glamour says she's early today. Welcome. Good night. Is it possible to exceed Africa for 81K for September 2NLs? I can't say it's impossible. I don't know whether that will happen or not. I've given my indications about what I think will happen in Africa. I do expect there to be a small increase in Africa numbers, but how far that increase will go, I don't know. We're going to wait and see. I'm going to wait and see. So we'll have to. You'll probably hear me say the words "wait and see" quite a bit on today's live show. 2025 winner from Addis Ababa. My case number is 17,900. When will be my interview? Your 2025 winner, dude. You've got a year to wait. Like, if you're expecting me to pinpoint your exact interview date a year ahead of time, I'm sorry, that's you're dreaming. Just relax, chill out. We're trying to finish off 2024 right now, and you don't need to worry about your visa interview date at this point. It's probably about 10 to 11 months, maybe 12 months from now. Okay. But relax. 2020 I talked about already. Malone says, hope you're doing good. 66.5K from Algeria. I hope I get my interview in September. Yeah, good luck with that. I don't know whether you will or not, but good luck. You're welcome, Amadeo. Frustrating 2021 appeal. Yep. Thank you for the content. Are there any specific countries and degrees that have a higher chance of refusal for 221G, for example, science degree, etc.? There are certain studies that will increase your chance of 221G, yes. There's the technology, TAL, as it's called, Technology Alert List, I think it is TAL. If you are, for example, Russian and you're a programmer, you've got a slightly higher chance of 221G while they look into your background about that than others. If you're from a Middle East country or you've traveled extensively in the Middle East, and your education is something to do with, let's say, biochemical warfare or nuclear weapons or something like that, then yeah, they're going to look into your background a little bit more. If you know, and when I say a little bit more than an accountant from London, for example. You know, if you've got a really boring job in a really boring country that is not a threat to America, then they're really not looking at that too much, right? But if you're living in Iran, who has been threatening America, kind of foolishly, stupidly, it's like a flea threatening the dog that carries it, right? But Iran threatening America and being loud-mouthed about, you know, being anti-American and everything else, and then not cooperating with America, makes it pretty obvious that if you're from Iran, they're going to be looking at your background a little bit more carefully. If you also have an education which is something to do with technology or warfare or anything like that, and you're from Iran, then yeah, that's doubly so. If you're a male from Iran, you're going to have a bigger chance of 221G, or at least a DS 5535, which is the enhanced background checking. So yeah, there are certain combinations of countries and education or work experience that will cause more concern than others, right? What consideration take NY embassy to set capacity? NY take what? Take what? NY embassy. I don't know what you mean by NY embassy. Any? Oh my God! Please don't do these text things. Like you know, you come to America, and we've barely got Americans speaking English. It doesn't make it easier when you start to do text abbreviations, and I don't understand it. So don't do that, please. But what consideration does any embassy take to set their capacity? How many staff do they have? Are their staff on vacation or not? Are they sick or not? How much back office processing staffing do they have available? How many consular officers versus back office processing? Those sort of things. Also, they have to take into account what other high priority work they have, which is why some embassies like Addis and Accra, for example, have prioritized their immediate relative visa processing versus diversity visa. So if you look at the number of interviews that Accra or Addis perform, for immediate relative cases, there's a much higher proportion of their cases or their capacity being given to IR cases than DV. And so in the embassies where IR is a thing, immediate relative is a thing where there is a backlog, you may find embassies actually prioritizing IR cases above DV. That does happen. OC, will it increase or will remain on 2,000? I guess we'll find out in about a week and a half's time. It doesn't need to increase, in all honesty. I've been explaining that for over a month now. It doesn't need to increase. It could increase a little bit. Maybe it'll go to 2,100, maybe 2,200 at the outside. I don't see any number higher than that. But it doesn't really need to be absolutely honest. They're pretty much at the quota. They've got programmed in enough interviews now to reveal or yield enough issued visas for that region. I suspect they probably will go another 100 cases, maybe another 200. That's what I'm expecting. But we'll see in a week and a half's time, 2 weeks' time. Second chance have for DV 2025. We don't know how many people are selected in DV 2025 yet. Therefore, it is impossible to say whether there will be a second draw for DV 2025. Right? If they've underselected, then sometimes they add a second batch of selectees a little bit later in September, October. But we don't know if they've underselected. And I tend to think they haven't. Just looking at the numbers, I don't think they've underselected. But it's possible. And we will know that in August or perhaps July. Okay? Is there any requirements for the photographs taken to medicals and interviews, any specifications? Yeah, it's the standard specifications. If you read the instructions, it's perfectly clear. There are standard instructions, predefined instructions for the photographs. Please do read them. And Joe, while you're at it, well, since you've got your 2NL, Read all the other instructions. You should be reading 3 sets of instructions. There's the instructions that you're originally given a link to, which is the web page where it says if you are selected, right? That's the general list of instructions. Then there are links from that page to point you at embassy specific instructions. You should be reading those too. And there are links from that page to point you at the reciprocity pages, which is where you find out the documentation standards for various countries. You should read all of those things, right? And so when I say read the instructions, I mean all of those. So go ahead and do that. Dear Simon, how does movement, your case, can affect your case queue? Do I have a chance for 30,800 BKK? Movement, your case. I don't really understand, Laura. How does movement, your case, affect your case queue? I don't really understand. You're not current yet, right? So when you go current, at that point, you'll be locked into an embassy. So there's no real movement at that point. And understand, everybody needs to understand, we are almost at the end time for DV 2024 in terms of any last movements. Like people who are talking about, oh yeah, I'm thinking about moving my embassy. Do you think I should do this? Do you think I should do that? Get the heck on with it, right? You don't have any more chance. It is 23rd of June. The final 2NLs will be sent immediately after the Visa Bulletin is published in July, which is going to be about 2 weeks from now, roughly, right? 2 weeks, maybe 2.5 weeks from now. At that moment, they already know which of the cases that are going to be scheduled for at least the first few embassies, right? Which means those cases are locked in from early July, which is about a week to a week and a half from now. So if you're still dicking around, frankly, moving from this embassy to that embassy and just think, oh, I might change because you think this is something that isn't going to happen until September, you're daft. This is all going to be, all the important stuff is going to end in about a week and a half's time. Okay? So stop dicking around, people. You have to understand there is 1 more month of scheduling left. There are several months of interviews left, but there's only 1 more month of scheduling left. And all of that scheduling activity will happen in about a week and a half to 2 weeks from now, maybe 2.5 weeks from now. And then there'll be a period of time where they're sending out the 2NLs for the remainder of July. But that's all programmed in based on who's ready for their interview at the beginning of July, right? Which is only a week and a half from now, right? So stop dicking around, people. Some of you got to wake up. I still have messages saying, oh, I'm thinking of doing this. I'm thinking of maybe moving to this. What do you think about this embassy? I like it there. Like, my answer is stop fricking around. Like, if you're going to make a change. I spoke to someone from Yerevan this morning, an Iranian assigned to Yerevan embassy. His case number is such that he is not going to get an interview in Yerevan. I did an analysis of Yerevan. The only thing Yerevan is going to do between now and the end of the year, September, is schedule EU cases. They may do very few AS cases, but most of the cases for Yerevan are going to be EU cases, and they'll be below 27,500. So if you've got like this guy had a 15,000 case, I think it was, or 15.5 in for a run. No way in hell he's getting scheduled in Yerevan. That's not going to happen. If you're case number 30,000 in EU in Yerevan, you're not getting scheduled in Yerevan. It's not. It's over. So, if you're case number 31,000 and you're expecting an interview in Yerevan because you're hoping to get current in the last month, you need to move like immediately, like now, in the next few days, this week. You need to get your ass out of that location because, out of Armenia, because it's not going to happen. That's what I mean. People need to wake up. I don't think people are waking up, but people need to wake up. Okay? Anyway, DV 2023 winner now at NYC. NYC is New York City. Exciting stuff, man. Good luck. DV 2025 winner. My case number is 21K. Any chance? I will now kill an angel in your name because you quoted me a number. I have no idea which region you're talking about. At that case number range, it could be EU, could be Asia, could be Africa. So waste of time, and unfortunately results in an angel being killed. Hello, Mr. Simon. Any news on the performance of US embassy in Freetown, Sierra Leone? Go have a look at the data, please. I don't have endless amounts of time to go have a look at the data, and I have shown how to review an embassy, how to see whether they're backlogged or not. I've shown that several times, right? So go and have a look. 2025 winner. 6 a mistake. Oh, I6 a mistake. I6 a mistake. I don't know what that means. A mistake about my birth date when filing the DS260. How do I correct it, sir? Birth date is very important. It's part of your identity. Names, birth dates, very, very important you get this right. You're a DV 2025 case. You need to email KCC and ask them to unlock. And when you email KCC, you give them your full name, your full case number, including the leading zeros, and your date of birth. And the date of birth has to be a month / day / YYYY, in that format, right? So it's month, date, day, year, in that format, right? So you give them those 3 bits of data that identify you, and you ask to unlock your case. That's what you have to do. And please don't give me that crap about, oh, if I unlock, it's going to make my case slower. No, it's not, number one, and shut up, number two, because if you're making a mistake with your date of birth or your name, you have to understand it is much more important to get your data right on important pieces of data. Now, I'm not talking about your address that you lived at 20 years ago when you were 17 years old. I don't give a damn about that. Nobody cares about that, right? Or the name of your school, you have a little spelling mistake, you added an extra letter at the end of the name of your school. Nobody gives a damn, right? What they care about, though, very important, is your names, right? Your legal names and your date of birth, because those things identify you. So if you've got a mistake on those things, you need to unlock and correct it, okay? Otherwise, the background check is done on false data, and it means that your background check would have to be repeated later on. Desmond says, what's the issue with Ghana Embassy? Still no 2NLs for this month. My case number is 6.6K and went current for last August. I hope I have a chance for 2NL. Okay, so the general concern with ACRA is this very low number of capacity they set each month, 20 or 30 interviews each month. That's clearly not enough. The reason that they're setting that number so low is because they're doing a lot of work on the immediate relative category, and they're preferring those cases over DV. That is their right to do that, unfortunately. We can't challenge that legally. We have tried in the past, but we've failed in challenging that legally. And so it is what it is. In terms of 2NLs for any given month, they may actually have already taken 2NLs this month. I'm not quite sure. But there is chance that they will take 2NLs up until the end of the month, right? So the month isn't over. We're not finished with 2NLs yet, okay? News about Liberia, because they've never been interviewing for some time. Well, hang on a second. So I'm always a little confused when people sort of say things that are kind of weird. So Monrovia last took cases. What year is that? That's not right. Monrovia is a very good embassy, right? So when you complain about Monrovia in Liberia, it really doesn't make sense to me. It's like you're not paying attention. Basically, that's what it means. Right, they last took their batch of 2NLs on May 31st last month. So that was last month. It was on the very last day of the month. I wouldn't be at all surprised if there's going to be 2NLs for Monrovia at the end of this month. So, just be a little bit patient, and, all will be well. Monrovia is doing very well. They're right up to date. They're not backlogged at all, and they have been consistently one of the best performing embassies in Africa in terms of keeping up with the Visa Bulletin. Okay, so stop whining about Liberia. You got nothing to complain about. Go tell someone from Addis or Accra that you're complaining about your embassy. They will tell you differently, believe me. Or Ankara or Cairo, or tons of people who got things far worse off than you in Liberia, believe me. 12.7K from Nepal here. A little bit scared, a little bit hopeful. Yeah, Kathmandu is kind of critical. Somebody asked me an interesting question this morning about how many people could be scheduled for Asia as a whole. And where my mind went to immediately was Kathmandu. It's all about Kathmandu. Kathmandu in the past have had 1 month, I think it was in DV22 or 23, I'm not sure which, where they issued 960, I think this is right, 962 NLs in 1 month. I'm saying that now, I've got to check that. I don't want to, someone's going to say, you're not right, that's not right, they didn't ever do that. Let me just check that, because I'm doing it from memory. So, KDU. Let's see, KDU. Come on, what do you do? Kathmandu. Okay, right. 980. I was wrong. So on July 1st, 2022, they took 982 NLs, right, for 1 month. Okay, that was on July 1st. Now that was their final 2 NLs for that particular year. They then took a handful in August, which was, and even September, right up to September. But 980 was their big push for the year, right? Now, it wouldn't surprise me at all if Kathmandu do something similar this year. So I'm sort of expecting that. Now, I can't really expect anything. I'm not in control of it. I don't have any inside information. It's just that based on previous history, Kathmandu have proven that they can, if they want to, schedule 980 2NLs in a single month if they want to. So when people ask me, how is Asia going to finish up? How many visas will Asia have? Well, a lot of that is to do with Kathmandu. Are they going to do a massive scheduling or not? I don't know for sure, but they certainly have the ability to do that, and we just have to wait and see whether they will do that or not. Right? I'm certainly hopeful. They've taken 2NLs for August already, 250 for August. There's a couple of things they could do. They could issue another batch of 2NLs this month, or they could do an enormous batch next month. Right? It's possible. Either of those things could happen, or I could be entirely wrong and they just do another 200 or 300 2NLs, which would be pretty much, I wouldn't say disastrous, but it would be difficult for Nepal if they only issue another 200 or 300 2NLs. We really need to see them doing 500-600 2NLs, which is a lot to ask, but they have the ability. So we'll see. I'm DV25 winner in Qatar, number AF30,000. I'm from Kenya. Should I change it to Nairobi? It's too early to be worried about Qatar, right? It's too early to assume that Nairobi is going to be a strong performer in DV 2025. Your case number AF30,000, you don't need to make the decision yet. You're not going to be current until we have the full data in January 1st. So on January 1st, take a look at how Qatar is performing, assess how they did in DV 2024, and then make your decision. And I would expect Nairobi is probably going to be doing well next year, but I can't be 100% sure. Okay, it did badly last year and has done very well this year, so things can change from one year to the next. Okay. Joe, you keep asking questions I know you've already asked. How long should you wait to register an appointment? It generally only takes a few days, Joe. If you're still struggling after that, there's probably something wrong with either what you're doing or perhaps with the system. But other people are managing to schedule their appointments. Not schedule, actually, to register their appointment. Let me just go back to your comment. Understand, when you get the 2NL from KCC, most embassies now use what I call a courier service, which is USA Visa.co or something. I can't remember what it's called. And there are various versions for each of the different embassies, and they're different in each case, right? So I don't have any way to sort of give standard instructions that apply in all cases. The systems are slightly different from one embassy to another, right? But in all cases, all you're trying to do is register with that platform. You're not trying to book another interview. So if you put in whatever options on the drop down that you have, and it comes back saying that's not ready for scheduling an interview yet, it's because you've done the wrong bloody thing, right? You are not trying to schedule an interview. You don't need to schedule an interview. You already have an interview. All you're trying to do is set up an account with the courier service. That's all you're trying to do, right? And by choosing different options on the drop downs, you'll find that you'll get a different reaction from the system. And so many times people go round and round and round in circles because they're not paying attention to what the drop down choices say, and they don't try different things, right? So try something different. If it's been more than a week since you received your 2NL, their system already has your data. You can set up the account. Okay. Hi, Britt. Hope you're well. What do you think about Asia? Are there any benefits for 2025 and before years like 24 and 23? I know what that means. I can't answer these vague questions. Are there any benefits? What benefits? What are we talking about here? Try and be specific about your questions. Otherwise, I can't read your mind. I'm sorry. I don't know what you mean by are there any benefits? I don't know what that means. Ahmed, case number 2024, EU 3000, just above under policing. What's the possibility? I think you're going to go current, and so then it just comes down to the embassy. So I wasn't going to do this, but I will. Let's have a look at Tbilisi. I don't think I pronounced that correctly. Georgia. Let me just say Georgia. Okay, so they're not tremendously backlogged. Looks like they might be a little bit backlogged up until 27.5, which is the last, which was the July number for EU. Yeah, they haven't taken. They took 182 cases in May, on May 21st. We're yet to see them take cases this month. When they take cases, I would expect them to be more or less up to date, so you'd have a good chance of getting your interview if you go current, which I expect you're going to go current. I do expect EU to increase by at least a couple of thousand numbers, if not a little bit more than that, right? At least 32, 33 is what I'm expecting. Maybe a little bit more than that, right? So, so you've got a good chance. Can fibroid stop you from going to the US? I don't know what fibroid is, but I'm not a doctor. But it's not one of the 4 diseases that causes a problem. So no would be my answer. What the hell is a fibroid? What fibroid, is that a disease? Myomas, non-cancerous growths of smooth muscle. No, it's nothing. So look, your fibroids, whatever the hell that is, has got nothing to do with me. It's not like I'm going to stand next to you at a bus stop and I'm going to catch fibroids from you, right? And that's all they're concerned about. They're concerned about whether you're going to bring diseases to this country that are significant public health diseases. Things like leprosy, tuberculosis, those sort of things. They don't care whether you've got one leg is longer than the other, or your arm constantly twitches and goes up in the air. None of that is interesting to us, right? Because none of that is catching, right? Fibroid, cancerous, whatever it might be, it's got nothing to do with everybody else, right? Unless it's part of leprosy or tuberculosis and so on, one of the 4 diseases. And there are only 4 diseases they care about. Unless it's one of those, it's not a problem. It's not a problem to me, and therefore it's not a problem to the government, right? Because I'm not going to catch it from you. That's the point. Now, they do care about you being properly vaccinated so that you're not coming here and spreading diseases that we vaccinate for in America. That's one of the reasons they insist on vaccinations, right? But other than that, it's all about the The medical screening is making sure that you are not going to carry some disease here to America. That's what it's about. They're not interested in whether you're going to be happy and healthy for the rest of your life. That's not what they're interested in. That's not why they do a medical interview for you. It's about whether you're going to affect Americans. That's basically it. On the selections, what measures do they use per country or continent? What do they follow apart from the photo issues? The chance of selection in each region is random and the same from country to country to country. The reason that some countries get a lot of selectees, whereas a country next door gets very few selectees, has got nothing to do with the country. It's got everything to do with how many people from that country enter the lottery. That's it. If you've got two countries and one has, let's say, 100,000 entries and the other one has, let's say, 10,000 entries, and the chances are 1 in 100, then country A is going to have 1,000 people who are chosen as winners, and country B is going to have 1/10 of that, about 100 people. It's as simple as that. It's just literally the same averages. Now, yes, there are some nuances to that because country A may be really bad at taking photos, whereas country B is really good. So it might appear that country B actually gets a higher percentage of winners, but they actually had the same chance in the beginning, right? It's a standard random draw. That's all it is. Case number 2025 AF 54,000. Is it too high? Can I expect an interview next year with Nairobi? Okay. It's a bit early to talk about it. It's probably not a very high number, but it's a bit early to talk about that. We don't know how many people are selected. So you have to wait and see. Okay. It's probably okay, but at least wait until July, August when we find out how many people are selected. Okay. DV 2025 with an AF 8,100, and you're thinking if I can get an interview, like it's not high, 8115, unless you've been 81,000 and you've mistyped here. Is that what you did? Because 8,100 is not a high number, and it's almost at the point where I think you're silly for asking, because it's obviously a low case number. But if you mistyped and your case number is actually 81,000, then yeah, that could be a high case number. We'll have to wait and see. Okay. How can you tell the actual number of people who are waiting for their interviews versus no-shows in the ready section in Zarthisius' website? The only thing you can do is figure out whether they could have had the interview or not. So you download the file, the CSV file, the Excel spreadsheet, which is available on the top of that page, that same page, and you look at all the ready cases at your embassy that you're interested in, and you look to see when they got their 2NL. If there's a case that is marked at ready, and it received its 2NL, let's say in January of this year, so it would have been scheduled for a March interview. March has passed, and the case still reads ready. That means they're probably a no-show, right? On the other hand, if they received they're ready and they received their interview in June 2NLs were for August, right? And so that one's not even had a chance to be interviewed yet. That's all you can do. So you can make a rough approximation by the region or by a particular country in that way, in the manner I described. Okay. If I've got some vaccines already from some other doctor and take the vaccine results to the medical, does that reduce the cost? Yeah, the physicians that are chosen by the US Embassy sometimes charge private fees for administering extra things like vaccinations, right? And in some countries and in some situations, it is cheaper to get them done prior to that medical interview elsewhere than going to the medical interview and having them done. The only thing I would say is that the number of vaccinations you get will probably be less if you leave it until you go to the medical, because the physician, the panel physician, has the right to say which vaccinations are medically necessary in your situation or not. So, for example, if you're in the northern hemisphere and it's not flu season, then you don't have to get the flu jab, right? Whereas if you're in flu season in the Northern Hemisphere, or in your hemisphere, then you will be given the flu jab by the panel physician. So if you don't know that nuance and you go and get the flu jab, it may not be medically necessary, and therefore you've taken an extra jab because you did it in advance rather than wait until the panel physician, right? And so same sort of thing applies to some other vaccinations as well. So yeah, you might be able to save money getting it done before the medical, but you might get more jabs, and therefore the money works out the same. Mr. Simon, if you make changes in your DS260 during interview, which confirmation page do you take to the embassy, the first one or the second one? If you make changes during the interview, that means you're sitting with the CEO. You don't go take another confirmation page. It doesn't matter. If you make the changes prior to the interview, which is not what you said, but that's what I think you mean, just take whichever confirmation page. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether it's the first one or the second one. They're all the same, essentially. So just print one out and stop worrying about it. 2024 winner from Accra with a case number of 24K. My case is currently, but it looks like the interview is not coming up anytime soon. How can I move to another embassy? Oh God, heavens! Oh, for months I've been shouting from the rooftops for people from Accra and from Addis, etc., to move. 24K was never going to get current in Accra. It's not going to get current in Accra. And now with a week and a half left before you absolutely are going to be out of time, now you're talking about moving. You've left it too late, Evans, frankly. But, you're locked into Accra now. If you email KCC, they won't help you at all. The only possible chance that you have is to move to another country in the next few days. I'm literally talking the next few days here. You move to another country and you get the embassy from that country to contact KCC on your behalf to take you out of the AV status queue for Accra and reassign your case to that embassy that you went to. Now, what's going to motivate them to do that for you? I don't know. I don't think they will do that for you, in all honesty. And even if they did do that for you, you're probably not going to get that done quickly. So I think you've left it too late, Evans. In all honesty, I think you've just screwed yourself up. I think you've cost yourself a green card because you've not listened to what I said in the last 6 months. I've been saying this for at least 6 months. So sorry to be blunt, but I think you're about to lose a green card because you've left yourself connected to Accra. And there was a chance, there was a time when you could have moved very early on. I was giving that advice very early, in very early January, and you could have moved at that point, but you've left it too late now. So feel free to do what I said, but you need to do that like tomorrow. You need to be moving to another country tomorrow. And honestly, I don't know if that's going to work, even if you do that. So I'm a bit hesitant to say go do it because it's probably going to be too late anyway. But that would be the only possible way that you would get an interview. Otherwise, if you stay at Accra, 100% certain you're not getting an interview. And it's been 100% certain for months. So my case number is 30,000. Am I in cutoff? Embassy will take interview for me. What does that mean, people? What am I supposed to do with that? Your case number is 30,000. How am I supposed to know? I don't know your year. I don't know your region. Oh, sir, have I any chance? EU 39.4 for 2024? Probably not. I don't think we're going to get to that case number in all honesty, but wait and see what happens in 2 weeks' time. We'll see in the final Visa Bulletin. I can't say 100% you won't get current, but I don't think you will, in all honesty. But there you go. Did Abu Dhabi send to an else for August yet? I think they may have done, but they've not marked them as being received. So I checked yesterday that there were none assigned to Abu Dhabi, but so I don't know. You'd have to ask the community to see whether others have reported receiving their 2NLs. Those who are AF 2024 getting to NL now and possibly getting TB test positive, looks like they may not clear for visa in time. If that's the derivative TB issue, what happens? Okay. You're right. So let's say you do a medical now, we're in June now. It takes about 3 months to go through the TB process to get a clear medical report. So if somebody is going for a TB test now, they're probably not going to clear before the end of September, right? So basically that person could not get a visa because you can't get a clearance. There's not enough time, right? If that person is the main principal winner, then everybody on that case loses their chance. If that person is a derivative, then that derivative will lose their chance, but the other family members can proceed. Now, once the rest of the family has proceeded, if they then move to America, they can sponsor that person that was left behind and bring them later. But that will take years. Okay, so you have to understand that's going to split up the family for a number of years, probably between 2 and 5 years. And so it's really bad news. It's a risk. It's a risk of anybody that's scheduled later in the year for that situation. If you are in a country where there is TB, then you need to get an earlier medical, basically. So just in case, right? And just make sure that nothing is going to appear on the X-rays that could give the appearance of TB. When to expect to NL for August interview, late June or early July? Both of those, right? So August interview 2NLs will go out probably as late as the end of this month and maybe even the first few days of July. Okay, so it could be either of those. I was selected DV 2025. I own a company here in Italy. What do you suggest to do after the interview? Great decisions will need to be taken. Angela, I can't tell you what to do. I can tell you what I did when I moved here. I simplified my financial position tremendously, a lot. I sold a lot of stuff that I owned. Some of that stuff I sold because of the tax situation, but it's very much a sort of a personal decision. Each person will make different decisions, right? You could continue a business in Italy while you live in America. Just understand the tax position is that you will now be you'll have to report your income on that Italian business in America. Now, if you've paid tax on it in Italy, then you may not have to pay tax again in America, but it's going to be complicated, right? And so to reduce the complication, you might say, you know what, I'm going to live in America, I'm going to sell the business in Italy. But that's everybody has their own choice to make about those sort of decisions, okay? Monrovia hasn't sent out 2NLs. Is there any problems? No, there isn't. The only problem is your lack of patience. Case number 68K, India. Any idea? No. No, because I don't know what. No, I have no idea. Again, you haven't told me the year. You haven't told me the region. That one I've already answered. I am Selassie says, hi Simon, does the new FAM policy require that you get your residential permit for the country that you're interviewing in? No, it specifically says it doesn't. The difference with the new FAM policy is that it means physical presence is enough, for the embassy to be satisfied. So in theory, once all the embassies are operating on this way, they shouldn't be asking for residency papers in each country. Now, it's going to take some time for us to get there. So for the time being, everybody's results are going to be a bit mixed, right? But no, you shouldn't need to provide residency papers any longer. Does the US Embassy in Togo require an affidavit of support and bank statements? I don't know. I don't keep a track of every single embassy, how they operate. But I would say that affidavit of support or bank statements is always wise, no matter which embassy you're at, always wise to have on hand when you go for the interview, especially if you're interviewing later in the year, because there isn't time for messing around with 221G, right? Okay. 82K Algeria. Is there a chance? I don't know. Algeria or Tunisia. I don't know what the visa bulletin, the final VB is going to say. Okay. Same question over and over. Hello, sir. I'm from Nepal. My interview is in July. I have the welcome letter from the sponsor. Is it okay or must need tax file? A few years ago, a welcome letter in Nepal was okay, but more recently, KDU have been asking for an I-134. If I were you, I would get an I-134. You know, just because you don't want to be delayed. So it's up to you. You can take that risk if you want to, but I wouldn't. Hello, Simon. Someone I know has been in 221G's refusal for 5 months. Does he have a chance to be accepted? Yes. I don't know anything about his case, so I have to say yes. There's a chance until the end of September. 2024 AF74K from Egypt but reside in Algeria. Am I current since I chose Algeria? No, you're not current because your number's still, even though you've moved to another country, your number is still based on the fact you're Egyptian. So you're not current and probably won't get current, actually. As you say, Egypt is still at 50K. So no. Probably not going to get a chance, I think. Okay, let's see. Why is there cases with low numbers that still show as still at MVC and DV Shark's website? There are people, those cases are not scheduled yet. And the reason they're not scheduled is lots of reasons. Some people don't find out they're a winner. Some people find out they're a winner, but they don't submit the DS-260. Some people submit the DS-260, but they do it so late that it's not processed in time, or it's processed very late. Some people submit the DS-260 early enough, but they're assigned to embassies with backlogs, and they're held back, or they have a country exception so that they're not current yet, even though other numbers in the region are current. That particular case number is not current, right? All of those things will cause the case to be showing as at MVC. All of those things I just mentioned, right? So no-shows, people who don't find out, all of those things, they're all, well, not no-shows, sorry. But, people who don't find out that they're winners, people who do find out but don't bother submitting a DS-260, that's a non-response. All of those cases I just said. So there's lots of different reasons why some cases will never change from at MVC, because MVC, the status at MVC, that's the beginning status for all cases. It simply means you haven't been scheduled yet. But the reasons you haven't been scheduled are various, which I just went through. Okay. 2024 EU 34,000, what are the chances? You have some chance, we'll just have to wait and see. Want to know the case number accuracy breach, about 6,000, not very much. What are the chances? Oh, the same thing. Hello, my name is MD Saiful Islam. I live in Bangladesh. Can DV Lottery come to America from Bangladesh? If you were born in Bangladesh, Bangladesh is not eligible for the lottery. The only thing that you might become eligible is if you marry someone who wasn't born in Bangladesh. Their country could be eligible. That's about the only way. Labour, we already answered about that one. Let's see. What's my expectation for Egypt? I don't really know. I don't track enough about Egypt. I don't get a lot of feedback about Egypt specifically, so I don't know. That one I've already answered. Is it possible? So I've already answered this one earlier on in the video. Let's see. Oh. Is there still hope for a person with case number 7180 from Accra? Maybe if they take 2 NLs for August and then they do something for September, maybe it gets to your case number. Okay, good luck. Mustafa Maximus says, do you think that next VB will be all current? No, I will come on here. What shall I do? I will come on here and I will pour a bucket of cold water over my head if we see all current next month. That's not going to happen, right? And you know, I've been explaining why it won't happen from the beginning of January. I explained that very carefully, very clearly, and I've been consistent in how I've explained that. And you can see that you know, if you look at Zarthesis's website, why would they make everybody current? Let me just show you something. I'm amazed we're still getting this sort of question, to be honest. But let me show you why I'm saying what I'm saying. Right? Share screen, that one. Okay. This is the state of the data right now, right? So we can just scroll up a little bit and we can see everything. Okay. So as it stands right now, they have scheduled 59,278 people. It's actually a little bit higher than that because there are 669 cases, which is about 1,300 people that have not been added to this number yet. So the actual number of scheduled people is just over 60,000, right? About 60,500. They need to schedule another 6,000 people or so, 6,000 to 8,000 people roughly. And they'll do that in the remainder of this month. They'll do some more of those, and it will leave something like 3,000-ish cases to be scheduled for September. 3,000 cases will reveal about 6,000 people, roughly. So now to get 3,000 cases, why would they make all these cases current? Let me just show you the charts here for Africa. Why would they go from there to there with all of these thousands of cases in that sort of beige color? Why would they do that, right? If we look at Asia, look how many people are not current yet. Tons of people not current. Look at EU, all of these people not current yet. They don't need to go current to reveal that few number of cases. They just don't need to do that, right? All of that in OC, all of that in South America. They don't need to go current in order to finish off this year and issue all of the visas. Why don't they need to do that? Because they selected 143,000 people for 55,000 visas. They massively over-selected. That's why, Mustafa. That's why it won't happen, right? I'm absolutely certain of it. But like I say, if I'm wrong, I'll drop a bucket of water on my head on video, just for you. Okay? My case is current at Sophia Embassy. I know that I can receive a 2NL by the end of the month. However, no letter yet. If I don't get a 2NL by next month, it's impossible to. Let's see, Sophia. I don't think Sophia is massively backlogged or anything. Let's have a look. EU. No, it's not backlogged. No, you've got a chance. It's a very quiet embassy, right? They don't take many cases, but that does mean that they could take a handful of cases and get everybody happy. They have taken cases for August. They took 4 cases. So I would expect them to schedule your interview for September. But once we see those interviews scheduled for September for Sophia, if you're not scheduled in that group for some reason, then that would mean your chances are gone. But I expect you to get your interview. Good luck with that. Okay. Do you have to submit documents such as police certificate, etc., during filing of the DS-260? No, you don't need to have any of those documents when you file the DS-260, and you don't submit them. They used to ask for some documents ahead of time, but they no longer do. Okay. Does any statistics about DB 2025 winners, how many visas will be given? We know that they're going to give about 55,000 visas, but we don't know the number of selectees. We've got a good idea about the highest case numbers in each region because we did a survey, but we don't have very much data. We'll have more data in July and August when we'll know the number of people selected in each country and therefore in each region. And then in January, we'll have the full SEAC data for the whole year, but we won't have more data before then, right? Other data before then. Frederick says, if someone is planning a marriage with another, yeah, there's always another. When you get married, there's always two, right? Because if you get married to yourself, I think that's very selfish and it's not technically legal. So there's always another, right? Can they apply for the next DV program? They've not married yet before October. Okay, if somebody's planning a marriage but hasn't married at the point that they enter the lottery, they can both individually enter, but they should enter as single. Just because they're planning to get married doesn't mean that they can claim to be married when they enter the lottery, right? So it's very important you tell the truth in this process. And I think some people literally struggle with that concept. What does the truth mean? The truth means the truth. So if somebody says to you, are you married? You don't say yes when you're planning to get married. You say no, because that's the truth. Are you married now, today? No. No is your answer because you're not married yet, even though you've got a wedding planned in 6 months' time or something, right? So it's just very simple. This process is very simple if you would just learn to tell the truth, right? And the truth is very simple. The truth isn't trick questions, or the truth is not what do you think would sound like a good answer. The truth is the actual truth. That's all it is, right? Okay, let's see. Let me choose one or two more questions and then we'll call it a day. Let's see if I can find. Oh man. Oh, it's a nice message. Thanks, Simon, for your guidance. Followed your guidance and had my interview on the 10th of June and passed it. Like that one, like that thing. Tesla, you're a pain in the ass for repeating your question a million times, and I've already answered it. So don't be a pain in the ass, please. Is it reasonable to transfer being in cutoff but no 2ml case? 26k from Warsaw Embassy, to a less congested one. Is it risky? Better to wait and see. It's DV 2024. Oh man. I think so. You haven't had a 2NL, but you're at Warsaw. I would just stay there, to be honest. You've got a chance in Warsaw. I would just stay there. You don't have very much time to change now anyway. So I would just stay there, and that will be your chance. Okay. Oh, Tesla, pain in the ass. Sorry, I'm just scrolling through to see if there's any good questions here. Okay, Nuth. I have moved on from my DV chance in January 20th, 2024. After you have told me that AF 120K will roughly get chance this year, any update? I did not say in January or any other time that that 120K would get a chance. I said, in a very, very, very small way, maybe, but I was never really thinking that 120K would get a chance, or was confident in getting a chance. The only update I would give you is that I'm now certain it won't get a chance. I'm certain. The maximum case number in Africa is about 122K, and so AF 120K, no, it's not going to get a chance. There's no question about that. Okay. Okay, I think we'll call that a day. This is a good technical question. So let me just answer this one for Grace. This will be the last question. I'm a DV 2025 winner, single parent. My son's father passed away 2 years ago. We were not married. When going for interviews at Nairobi embassy, will they ask a death certificate, which I don't? So you don't have a death certificate. Okay. So if you can obtain it, it would be good to get the death certificate. You presumably entered as single because your son's father had already passed away at that point. So you entered as single. So they won't really be expecting you to provide a marriage certificate or a death certificate for the father of your son, right? However, what they might expect is for you to prove that you have the legal right to take your son to America. And what answers that question is sometimes that you have written permission from a court showing that you have custody where two parents are involved. But in your case, the other parent is deceased, and therefore there's no question that you have the sole only right to take that child to America. But it hinges on the father, the boy's father, being deceased. And so if you can obtain the death certificate or something that proves that the boy's father is deceased, then that would probably be useful. It will stop some questions. They may just accept what you say, right? They may just accept it and not question, but it would be useful to have that extra proof if you can. Okay, good luck with that. Okay, everybody, I'm going to call that a day and go and drink some cold water for my throat. If you have any further questions that I didn't get to today, please do ask those questions. Apart from Tesla, everybody else can ask those questions on my blog at britsimonsays.com, and I will answer the questions there. Okay, so please do that. Good luck to everybody. Who knows? Maybe this week we'll hear something about DV 2020 and 2021. Who knows? Miracles happen. And for other people that are in DV 2024, your final days of being able to change something are here. You need to take action now if you're going to change anything. Don't wait. Don't procrastinate. Don't still be asking me in a month's time, do you think I should move? Because my answer will definitely be, you left it too late at that point. Okay, you've got now about a week and a half to make some sort of movements. Okay? All right, everybody. Thanks then. Bye-bye.